Welcome friends to this video on the morphology of the Crohn's disease, which is a type of inflammatory bowel disease. Now, as I have told in my previous video, Crohn's disease is a chronic inflammatory disease where we have granulomatous inflammation involving all the layers of the intestine, and the involvement of the intestine will be focal and asymmetrical. It can involve any part of the gastrointestinal tract from the mouth to the anus, and the involvement will be focal. It's not continuous, it will be the focal involvement and asymmetrical involvement. So because it involves in a discontinuous fashion, if you see here, parts of the intestine are involved, and in between we have the normal intestine. So we call them as skip lesions, and also as it is involving discontinuously, we call it as a regional enteritis. When we see the ulcerative colitis, it is a superficial inflammation which will be involving the intestine in a continuous fashion. It involves only the colon, and that also it involves in a continuous fashion, not in the way the Crohn's disease is involving. This Crohn's disease is named after an American gastroenterologist, that is Burrell Bernard Crohn. He was the first person to describe this disease in his patient in 1932. Now this we see mostly in the northern countries, but the incidence in the Asia and Africa is very less, and the peak incidence we see in the second and the third decades, and this disease shows a slight female preponderance. And as I have already told you in the pathogenesis, smoking is one of a very strong risk factor for the development of the Crohn's disease. Now when we see the sites, which is the most commonest site, as I told you, the Crohn's disease can involve any part of the intestine, that is from the mouth to the anus. But most commonly, the common site is the small intestine alone. That's 40% of the cases we see involving only small intestine, whereas 30% of the cases we see involvement of both the small intestine and the colon, and 30% we see the colon alone. And uncommon sites is it can involve any site: stomach, duodenum, esophagus, or the mouth. Then coming to the gross features. Now when we are describing the gross features, let us see the external changes what are there in the intestine involved by the Crohn's disease, and what changes we see on the mucosal surface. So externally, when we see the bowel which is involved, it appears reddened, hyperemic, and it will be covered with the serosal exudate. And as the involvement of the inflammation is transmural here, all the layers are involved, there will be fibrosis because of the inflammation, and also there will be the hypertrophy of the muscularis propria. So both this fibrosis and the hypertrophy, it increases the thickness of the bowel wall. So when you see grossly, the bowel wall will be very thick and rigid. So the term what they have used to describe it is lead pipe like rigidity, what we see in the Crohn's disease. And another important thing is when we see the small intestine, as I have described, there will be increased in the thickness because of the hypertrophy of the muscle. So when the thickness is increased, obviously the lumen of the intestine is reduced. So same thing when we see in the X-ray, the barium meal of the X-ray. This is the X-ray, and you see this is the large intestine, and this is a small intestine. If you see in this, you see a small string-like appearance. This is because the lumen is thinned out. So that's why the string-like appearance, they have named it as a string sign, which we see only in the Crohn's disease because of the thickness of the wall of the intestine, increased thickness of the wall and narrowing of the lumen. So that gives appearance like a string on the X-ray. Then another important feature is the wrapping of the fat. Usually we see the fat and the mesenteric border, but in the Crohn's disease there will be the fat wrapping the anti-mesenteric serosal surface. So you see here, and this wrapping of the fat we see in the areas where we have the transmural inflammation. So here you can see the difference in the photograph. So we see as if the fat is wrapping around the intestine. So this one they call it as a creeping fat. This is also one of the diagnostic finding in the Crohn's disease. Now that was about the external appearance. Then when we go to the internal, the mucosal surface, how it appears. So the earliest sign will be the small aphthous ulcers. Later on, these ulcers, they enlarge and then they unite and they form the serpiginous ulcers or the linear ulcers. So in between the ulcers also we have the normal mucosa, a part of the intestine which will be showing the ulceration. Then you have a normal mucosa. Then again you have the part of the intestine having the ulcerations. So that we call them as a skip lesions, because in between we are having the normal segments. Now, this is how they appear, the serpiginous. This is a small aphthous ulcers. They form the serpiginous ulcers like this. And this is the gross photograph, the mucosal surface. These are the serpiginous ulcers what you're seeing. And what happens later is, these serpiginous ulcers, they heal. And when they heal, they form the linear scars. So the linear scars, they give the appearance like a railroad track like scars. So this is another important characteristic finding what we see in the Crohn's disease. Serpiginous ulcers along with long railroad track like the scars are the characteristic feature of the Crohn's disease. And another important is the cobblestone appearance. So what happens is, you have this reddened part are the ulcerated part, and in between what you're seeing, the raised part of the mucosa, that is a normal mucosa which is edematous. So these raised edematous mucosa in between these ulcerated areas, it gives the appearance of a cobblestone. This is a cobblestone appearance, and the similar appearance you see here because of the raised edematous mucosa which is present in between this ulcerated area. Now that was about the mucosal surface. So we have a cobblestone appearance, and then we have serpiginous ulcers and railroad track like scars. Afterwards, what happens, the ulcers which are present, they may deepen and they form the fissures. Now these fissures, either they heal. When they heal, they form the strictures. If they don't heal and they go into the deeper into the serosal surface, they can form the sinuses, or they can open up into the adjacent intestine and they form the fistulas. So we can have strictures, we can have sinuses, or we can have the fistulas. Now these fistulas may develop in between the adjacent small bowel or the intestine, whatever is present, and also in the adjacent organs like the bladder and the vagina. The fistulas can open into the bladder or the vagina also. And the lymph nodes which are present adjacent, the mesenteric lymph nodes, they also will show the granulomas. They will be enlarged and they also will be matted together. Now this was what I was telling. This is a diagrammatic representation. You see, these are the linear railroad track like ulcers, healed railroad track like healed scars, and you have a cobblestone appearance, and these are the ulcers. So ulcers may deepen and they form the sinuses. They may open up on the surface where they get secondarily infected and they can form an abscess on the surface of the intestine, or these ulcers which are forming the fissures, these fissures and the fistulas can open up into the adjacent intestines. So this is an adjacent another bowel where it's opening up, forming a fistulas, and you have increased thickness of the bowel wall. Now that was about the naked eye appearance of the external and the internal mucosal surface. Now coming to the microscopy, what features we see in the microscopy is the mucosal surface. We will see from the mucosa till the serosa. So mucosal surface will be ulcerated, and then coming to the mucosal glands, the architectural distortion will be seen in the mucosal glands. So if it's a small intestine, we have just the Willis blunting, but if it is the colon, then we have irregular crypts. Instead of the straight parallel crypts, we have irregular and the branching of the crypts. That's what we call it as architectural distortion. If it is a chronic, for many years it is present, then we can find the mucosal atrophy also. Then we have the granulomas which are non-caseating. These granulomas we can see from the mucosa, submucosa, and even in the muscularis and serosa also. It involves all the layers. Then transmural inflammation also we see in all the layers. We find even the lymphoid aggregates in all the layers. Then after the fissures heal, they form the stricture. So we have the stricture formation which can be because of the fibrosis. Now this is just a diagrammatic representation. You see, these are the Distorted crypts, actually they should be parallel crypts, long and parallel, so they have abnormal shape, what we call it as distorted crypt architecture. These are the sharp fissuring ulcers, what you are seeing, they are going deeply into the muscularis, and these are the transmural inflammatory infiltrate with the lymphoid aggregates even in the muscularis, involving the muscularis and the mucosa. You can find the granulomas which are present even in the mucosa and in the muscularis. This is the microscopy picture. These are the fissuring ulcer going deeper into the mucosa and submucosa. Here you see the lighter areas, these are actually the granulomas, and this area is a lymphoplasmacytosis. You have lymphocytes and the plasma cell infiltration, a band of lymphocytes and the plasma cell infiltration you are seeing. Now this is what I mean as a distorted crypt architecture. You can see the branching of the crypt architecture. Here also you are seeing budding and the branching. Here you have an ill-formed granulomas. Now these are the granulomas in the mucosa where you are seeing this is a well-formed granuloma with epithelioid cells, and in this picture you are seeing the granulomas in the serosal surface. So here you are seeing the granulomas. Now that's about the morphology. So how you have to remember is when you are describing the gross, try to remember from the external surface to the internal mucosal surface. So external we have hyperemic radiant serositis, then lead pipe-like rigidity. X-ray shows a string sign because of the narrowed lumen, and then you have a creeping fat on the external surface. Internal we have first small ulcers which form serpiginous ulcers which heal. They form railroad track-like healed ulcers. And in between the normal mucosa gives a cobblestone appearance, and then we have a skip lesions, and the ulcers may deeper and then they may deepen and they form the fissures which heal to form the strictures, or otherwise ulcers may form the fistulas and the sinuses. Then when you see the microscopy, you have to remember these 5 points. You have first the ulcers or the fissuring ulcers on the surface, then the mucosal glands, you have a distortion of the crypt architecture, you have the granulomas and the transmural inflammation, then the strictures will be present because of the healing fissures or the ulcers. This is in the nutshell about the morphology of the Crohn's disease. Now how the patient will present is the patient will have the fever and he has the abdominal pain along with the diarrhea, intermittent attacks of the diarrhea. So, and that abdominal pain also typically it will be, mostly it is usually the right lower abdominal pain with the fever, and the patient will present with the periods of active disease. He has in periods of active disease, then for some period he will be asymptomatic, then again he has the periods of the active disease. So periodically he'll have the attacks of the diarrhea and the abdominal pain. What are the complications of this is the malabsorption. As the mucosa is destroyed, the intestinal epithelial cells are destroyed, the absorption is not proper, so the patient will suffer with the malabsorption. Later on he can develop iron deficiency anemia, and even the megaloblastic anemia also the patient can develop. As I told you, the fistulas can form in between the adjacent gut, adjacent bowel, or it can also form between the adjacent organs like the bladder and the vagina. There can be abscess formation on the surface of the gut which is involved, and the healing fissures, they can form the strictures. These strictures can cause the obstruction, and later on in the chronic cases these ulcers can lead to the malignancies. Very rarely the Crohn's disease leads to the malignancy, but it can lead to the malignancies. It can produce adenocarcinomas and also the lymphomas it can produce. Now we have some extra intestinal manifestations also. This is related to immune related manifestations we have. So arthritis the patient may have, and that is typically migratory polyarthritis or the ankylosing spondylitis. In the skin he may present with erythema nodosum, pyoderma gangrenosum, or he can have the skin tanks. Bones, the patient may have osteoporosis, osteopenia, or osteomalacia. This is because of the decrease in the absorption. Then in the eyes, the patient can have uveitis, keratopathy, episcleritis, or the dry eye. Kidneys, usually these are mainly because of the drugs what he uses for the Crohn's disease: renal stones, hydronephrosis, glomerulonephritis, and amyloidosis. Once he stops using the drugs, the renal stones and hydronephrosis can go back also. Liver, the patient will have the fatty liver disease, hepatitis, gallstones, and this Crohn's disease is associated with the primary sclerosing cholangitis. And anemias, as I told you, he can develop the iron deficiency anemia and vitamin B12 deficiency anemia. So, about the Crohn's disease, its clinical manifestations and the complications. Thank you, friends, for listening patiently.